Welcome to the Waymaker Summit podcast room. Happy to have my next guest join me. He's a legend in his young life. His name is Donovan Price, but most people know you as Korporate.
Yes, sir.
Welcome to the podcast. How you doing?
A pleasure, man. Thank you so much.
Tell me about this corporate thing. What is this, Donovan? How'd you come up with this, and what does it mean? What are you doing?
Indeed. When I was trying to come up with a name for me as an entertainer, I know someone had advised me to come up with something that describes me. With me always being an individual that was about business, I was always into selling things. When I was in high school, I was selling CDs, I was selling candy. I used to charge people extra if they wanted next day service for their mixed CDs. So I came up with the name Korporate because it just describes my aura. And I spelt it with a K for it to be different. So, yeah.
Yeah, the Kappas appreciate that. I wish I had come up with it because that K means a lot to us.
Indeed, it does.
But talk about, you're an entertainer. Tell us about what you do.
Most certainly. I'm a musician by craft, but I found myself stumbling into a love and appreciation for film. I got into content production in an attempt to market my music, and it just kind of exploded bigger than I would have ever imagined over the course of some years.
What happened? What made it explode?
There was a concept that I came up with called Chicago Be Like. That was pretty much a series of productions that shined a light on Chicago culture, lifestyle, and language. And not only the city, but the world just took a liking to it.
Tell me more about that. That's kind of interesting. Chicago Be Like, hashtag Chicago Be Like.
Black Chicago Be Like.
Black Chicago Be Like. So tell us about that.
Absolutely. So Black Chicago Be Like started off as a series of videos that had different scenarios that were relatable to my upbringing and a lot of my peers' upbringing, family and friends, and so on and so forth. It included scenarios, dialogue, the way we pronounce words, and so on and so forth. And then it just grew into longer productions that entail storylines that were very Chicago-esque. So over the period of years, I've just kind of grew those videos and enhanced the production. As a result of my own research, I learned how to film and handle camera equipment off of YouTube myself. So it's just pretty much a snowball that's been growing over the course of the years for sure.
So this concept that you came up with, hashtag Black Chicago Be Like,
Yes.
Tell us about that more. Is it about Black Chicago? Is it about Chicago? Or what is it that
Indeed.
you found?
The Black in Black Chicago actually is not in regard to ethnicity, but more so Black in regard to the other side of something like the black market. You know, when on average, when you think of Chicago, you think of the Magnificent Mile, the Millennium Park, the Beam, but this is the other side of Chicago, more so the urban areas, and that's where I'm pretty much touching with my content.
So it seems like a double entendre because it is the black side as well when
Indeed.
you start to think about where those things and what those things are.
But I've come to find it is different nationalities that can relate and have experienced a lot of the content that I produce. Definitely shout out to all of my Mexicans and Puerto Ricans, you feel me? I've even found a lot of Caucasians that's been good fans of my content as well.
So you've got a very diverse mix of people who are watching hashtag Black Chicago Be Like.
Yes, sir.
So tell us more about you and where you've come from in Chicago. Where'd you grow up?
Most certainly. During my elementary school years, I grew up on the west side of Chicago. I attended Herbert Spencer. My OG had found herself getting a well-paying position at the airport, so she saved up her money and moved us out to Country Club Hills, where I went to Hillcrest for my first 2 years of high school, but then life got the lifing, and she lost the house, and then we came back to the city and moved to Roseland. I'm on 113th and Wentworth, and that's where I went to Corliss High School and graduated for my junior and senior year.
But I thought in Chicago, when we grew up on the west side, we move any place but the south side. That apparently is not true.
Not at all.
So Black Chicago Be Like we move anywhere.
Absolutely.
Apparently.
Sure.
So talk about this following that you have, and as you see that happening, and you're now corporate, how do you monetize that?
Absolutely. So I know with YouTube, I have been able to garner 2.2 million subscribers, and I monetize my YouTube with ads that are on the videos. I also monetize the videos by having different companies pay me to incorporate their products and services into my content. I also make money off of Facebook through ad placements as well.
So how did you learn about this aspect of business?
Experience and Google research.
You researched it.
Absolutely.
So from Corliss, what did you do after Corliss High School? Is this where you got into the business that you're in now, or did you do something else?
I went to Central State University for a couple years. When I came home, I then found myself having my oldest baby, Brazil Marie, which I incorporated into a lot of my content as well. And then I decided to stay home and work. I started the content in April 2015. And the Chicago Be Like phenomenon was birthed as a random idea on January 6th, 2016.
January 6, 2016. Is there something special about that date?
My life changed after that. Yeah, that's when I found myself with a idea that people really gravitated towards, and it allowed me to have a foundation that I can build upon. I've been doing so for the several years. I last worked at the post office in the distribution center, and I resigned from that position November 2017. So I've been working for myself ever since.
What about music? Are you still doing that?
Absolutely. I released my first project at the top of the year. That album is called The Proposal.
Great. So talk about what brought you into this whole Waymaker Summit concept. What brought you here?
Most certainly, I was blessed to be able to be connected with a young lady with BET by the name of Nicole, and she introduced the opportunity for me to be able to inspire and motivate the youth at this summit. So this is actually my second year participating. It's very important to me. It's one of the most important aspects of my whole journey and career is motivating and inspiring the youth and letting them know that I'm not doing anything that they can't do.
Talk about the lessons that you share with them. What do you tell them?
I like to harp on the importance of discipline. Also paying attention in school and not taking school for granted. I let them know about how I use reading and comprehension, even with the content, as well as mathematics. I also encourage them to improve their circle, deal with like-minded people that are also trying to go up. A lot of times your circle could pull you down, and just be that shining light wherever you are. And, you know, from their seat of what they see, it would appear like, man, the corporate's doing a lot. He must be with some type of company. And so, no, I'm not. The imprint that I represent is corporate entertainment, and that's my brand. And they also could establish their own imprint and do the same.
How do they take to what it is that you're sharing with them?
Because I have adapted the ability to communicate and understand them, they're able to receive a lot of the lessons and information that a lot of their teachers and mentors and other adults in their life may not have been so successful with. And I don't take that power for granted. It's a beautiful thing for me to be able to instill real knowledge into the youth, and they actually receive it. Even with the Chicago Be Like videos, though they're very entertaining, the most important part of those videos is the moral of the story. And a lot of those moral of the stories are lessons that people may have been trying to instill in them, and they may not have been receiving them, but they receive them from my content.
So you mentioned a few things in that last statement. One, you mentioned the concept of mentors. Mm-hmm. And Waymaker is all about somebody who helped make the way for someone else. Talk about some of the Waymakers that you may have experienced in your life. Who helped you?
Absolutely. A team is very important. My two managers, Sean Redwell and Veronica, or Connect the Stars, I've been working with them for at least 5 years. And I definitely appreciate them for just believing in me and giving me the moral support that I appreciate, as well as a lot of the individuals that I work with on a daily, such as, Big Twine, and even my security team, my current security, Sean. You know what I'm saying? He's definitely on point and on site with me everywhere that I go. So I just can't be nothing but thankful. But first and foremost, though, God, you know, I tell a lot of people, for example, they advise me to move because of, you know, the potential dangers that I may be subject to living in Chicago. But one of the things I always make sure to express is that whenever I step on the other side of the door, I have to believe that God is providing me with a cloak of protection. The urban and inner city of Chicago is my workspace. It's Black Chicago be like it's not Black Hazelcrest, be like it's not Black Kankakee, be like it's Black Chicago, be like in the trenches, as they refer to them as. That's where they need me the most. And that's where I get a lot of my life experience from, and that's where I pull a lot of my relatable content from. So that's where I need to be at. So it's a mix of God, loved ones, and my security team that keeps me all right.
In whatever order that comes at
Absolutely.
the moment, you got to have all those things in place. Let's talk about this Waymaker Summit. Has been put together around the concept of what is it that you may have experienced in your life that has made things difficult and how you overcome that. Talk about some of the difficult situations that you may have been in and how you overcame that.
Absolutely. Like I say, one of the things that I make sure to harp on with the youth is about discipline and pushing through. In 2018, I lost my younger sister.
Sorry.
And blessings. And I actually got that call when I was pulling up to shoot a video. And, you know, at that time, the content wasn't a hobby anymore. It was how I was providing, you know, food for my children and a place to stay. So when I got that call, I remember I parked. I probably cried for like 3 minutes, and I went and got the video done. And even when I mentioned that to the actors that I was working with that day, it was like I would have never knew. You got to have a certain type of discipline to be able to push through. In Chicago, a lot of people witness losing loved ones and being subject to different uncomfortable circumstances, whether it be living conditions or things that's going on in your neighborhood. But I like to let the youth know that I'm from a lot of the same places that they from and came from, and that if I can make it through and push through and find light at the end of the tunnel, then they could do the same.
It's important to hear from you, because so often what we hear from our younger generation is the difficulty of moving towards the next thing. And so the message that you give to them becomes a very important one when you think about what Chicago be like. So just thinking about you and the messages that you leave in each of the videos that you do, how do you come across what those messages are? How do you relay those back to them? And how do you make sure that we all leave here with a sense of hope of what's coming next?
Absolutely. That relatability factor is very important. The last episode that I dropped, the moral of the story is to be good to your kids if you want them to be good to you. And that story was dealing with the strained relationship with my father. And I know a lot of people could relate to having those strained relationships with, you know what I'm saying, their parentals. And, you know, it was different pieces of the video that I know a lot of people have probably experienced, such as having a parent to use your social security number and get utility bills in your name and so on and so forth. So that relatability really allows me to be able to pull in my viewers and keep their attention while directing them to the bigger picture of whatever life lesson that I'm trying to communicate to them.
You know, it's interesting, and I laugh a little bit because I called my daughter a week or so ago to get her social security number because I was doing beneficiaries for my life insurance.
For sure.
And what she sent me back was, "Don't steal my identity."
For sure.
So I get it, and I got it. I know you've got to get on stage very soon, but I certainly appreciate you coming in and sharing these thoughts with us about who you are and what you're doing, and glad to have you here at Waymakers.
Thank you so much for having me.
Corporate.
Blessings.